No canal was ever the answer. It was simple, quick, and helped us generate fresh content without escape. I was furious, but mostly at myself for being such a naive fool, trusting everyone so blindly. What I needed were solid proofs. She wouldn't get half the house. It was mine. I met Anna in college. I was studying electrical engineering and aeronautics at USP in Sao Paulo, while she pursued psychology and social sciences. We crossed paths at a party in the Vila Madalena neighborhood. I was deep in depression and guilt. My grandmother had just passed, and I'd returned from her funeral in Sorocaba. I hadn't visited her much in recent years, too caught up in university life. Yet, she left me her house and her will. My parents didn't need it. It wasn't a grand home, but it was enough for a family of four, filled with incredible memories of my grandmother and grandfather before he died. My father was an aeronautical engineer, and my mother an assistant manager at a bank. I'd make good use of that house. As a child, I visited often to spend time with her. After my grandfather's death, she lived alone, so I'd go to keep her company. While running small errands for her or playing with neighborhood friends, I always carved out time for her. At the funeral, I saw the aero model kit I'd assembled 15 years earlier. It was my first one. Standing there, guilt washed over me for not visiting more. There was nothing I could do now, but the sadness lingered. That's how I embarrassed myself in front of Anna. We didn't see each other much on campus. She was beautiful, and we'd exchanged nods and smiles. At that Villa Madalena party, she noticed my gloom and tried to lift my spirits. It worked. I felt happier, or at least less sad. The next day, I thanked her by taking her for a beer at a downtown Sao Paulo bar, which turned into a dinner of sorts. Just a mortadella sandwich at the municipal market. In 6 weeks, we were in bed together. It was good. We were in college, but we never talked about it much. One morning, I woke to find her propped on an elbow, watching me. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "I'll make the coffee." I slipped on one of my shirts from the foot of the bed. There was love in her eyes. I was starting to feel something real for her. I couldn't keep dodging it. I had to speak up. I went downstairs, starving after the night's adventures, and made her a ham sandwich and one with ham and egg for myself. She sat at the table, lost in thought. I reached out my hand. She looked at me and smiled. "Now you're back with me, darling," I said. "I have something to tell you. I'm beginning to have serious feelings for you." She stood, rushed around the table, sat in my lap, held my face in her hands, and kissed me deeply. "Thank God, I love you too," she replied. "I was wondering how to tell you without scaring you off. I think I skipped the word love, but I meant it. Does this mean we're exclusive now?" I asked, mindful of our pasts. "I've been exclusive since we met at the party," she said. I couldn't say the same, but I had been since our first time. In 2 weeks, she moved into my small Sao Paulo apartment. We had to force ourselves to study amid the living, the loving. Being with her made me fall deeply in love. The future was a bit messy. I had a job waiting in Sorocaba at my father's company and the house for my grandmother to live in. Anna's hometown was Campinas, about 100 kilometers away. We spent alternating weekends driving the Rota dos Bandeirantes highway. I knew every pothole by heart. Then things started falling into place. The assistant manager at her company in Sorocaba was retiring, and knowing our situation, they offered her an interview. She nailed it and accepted. So, Anna would move to Sorocaba in 3 months. It was perfect, as I proposed, and we planned a May wedding in our local church, surrounded by towering trees that would shower us with natural confetti of blossoms. Everything was going smoothly until I caught her. It was her birthday, on a Friday, when I was supposed to travel to see her. I took Thursday off for a surprise, even buying a bouquet of roses from a florist in Minas. I arrived at her apartment. Her car was in its spot, but the lights were off. I let myself in. Clearly, she wasn't there. Maybe she'd gone to the market. I found a vase and put the roses in water. After 30 minutes, with no sign of her, I tracked her phone. It pinged at a bar around the corner, a noisy spot we didn't frequent much. I thought about calling, but that would ruin the surprise. I headed over. Peering in, I didn't see her at first. Then a flash of white caught my eye. She was there, arms wrapped around a man's neck, her right hand on his waist. The white flash was a bandage on his hand, and they were kissing deeply, just like she kissed me. Devastated, I snapped a few photos. The girl in the bar saw me and bolted toward them. I didn't wait. I turned and left, walking back to her apartment to pack my things. I sent her a copy of the photo with a message. I'll get my stuff. You can bring his. You know where to send the engagement ring. By the time I arrived, she wasn't there. So I grabbed a black trash bag and started stuffing my clothes in. As I cleared my things from the bathroom, she walked in, followed by the guy. This was about to get interesting. Love, it's not what it looks like, she said. It was just a kiss. Nothing happened. Please forgive me. You're standing there saying nothing happened, and you brought him here? A kiss with your arms around his neck? Where do kisses like that lead? Have you slept with him? No, I wouldn't do that to you, she insisted, meeting my eyes. Then I noticed her hand. So, you were just touching him? His hand's bandaged because you slammed it in a door last week, right? She nodded slowly. The guy chimed in. Sorry, man, nothing happened. It was just a friendly kiss. She was apologizing for this. He showed his bandaged hand. You don't apologize like that, I shot back. And I don't know you, so I don't trust you. He handed me his unlocked phone. Check everything. Messages, emails, Instagram, Twitter. We work together, but look. There was nothing incriminating, just work-related stuff, and her apology. They'd met a few times, but in groups. Still, I hated that kiss. And why hadn't she told me about his hand? Your turn, I said to her. Give me your phone. She handed it over without hesitation. I knew her passcode, and she knew mine. We had no secrets, or so I thought. I checked it all, and aside from matching what I'd seen on his phone, there was nothing else. But that touch was a line I couldn't cross. Slyly, I changed her password. My phone rang. I answered, muted it, and set hers on the table. I need time to think, I said. Give me the engagement ring. I'll hold it for 2 weeks and decide if it goes back on your finger or to the jeweler. Tears in her eyes, she slipped it off and gave it to me. Now, get out. As soon as they left, I turned up the volume on my phone to eavesdrop. I heard him say, Sorry, Anna, I didn't mean to ruin things. I like you. Their conversation unfolded. He thought her offer to help with his hand was a joke, but it escalated. She admitted the kiss was stupid, and he confessed he might have gone further if she'd offered. She exploded at him, telling him to leave and that he'd ruined her life. I heard the door slam and her crying. I hung up. So nothing had happened, but it could have. The problem was, I was still madly in love with her. Could I forgive her? I didn't know. I drove home without realizing it, then pulled over at a gas station in Anhanguera and called my parents. I told them the wedding was off. We hadn't paid much yet. They invited me for coffee the next day to talk. They reminded me to tell Anna's parents. They were good people, and it wasn't something to do over a message. So I called them. They were shocked and didn't believe me until I sent the photo. Her father urged me not to do anything rash, and her mother said she'd give Anna a piece of her mind. I got home and slept surprisingly well, exhausted in every way. The next day, I met my parents for coffee. We talked for hours, but reached no conclusion. My father and I drank too much, so I stayed in my old room. My mother made a familiar breakfast, and later, a traditional roast for dinner. It was comforting. Still, I hadn't decided. I canceled the wedding. Seeing her with another man made it easier. I threw myself into work and tackled long overdue tasks at the house that weekend, things I'd put off with all the traveling. On Saturday, the doorbell rang. It was Anna's parents, with her behind them. I invited them in, but shut the door in her face for a few seconds, just to make a point. When I opened it, she was crying. Her parents explained how remorseful she was, that it was a mistake. She said, "I'm so sorry, Lucas. It was idiotic. I shouldn't have done it. I told mom and dad everything." I asked, "Was it the kiss or the other thing with his hand that was the mistake?" Her mother's face fell. She hadn't known that part. Her father didn't seem surprised. He already did. I stepped into the kitchen to give them space, made coffee for them, and tea for myself. I even had their favorite brand. We talked for a while, but it led nowhere. I felt a deep sorrow when I saw her arms wrapped around another man's neck and learned of her other encounters. I didn't know how to cope with it all. Then Anna knelt before me, her eyes pleading. "I'm sorry, my love. I was foolish. I won't make that mistake again. I'll think about the consequences of everything I do. Please forgive me." I gazed at her beautiful face, and though I loved her, I wasn't ready to say it outright. I believed she hadn't intended to go further with him, based on what I'd overheard on the phone. She seemed aware of her errors, so I likely would forgive her, but our marriage wasn't back on track yet. There were still questions lingering. I asked, "Who knows about this and this man you're involved with?" She replied, "Only my parents, Joao, and one or two girls from the office who were there and saw it. No one's talked about it." I warned, "If Joao mentions it or comes near me, I'll break his other hand." Her mother's disapproving sound cut through at my crude words. It seemed half the office knew she was cheating, not just a few. Anna insisted, "I've told you, I'll never do it again." They promised not to spread it. Besides, I'm moving to the Sorocaba office in a month, so I'll be away from them all. I pressed, "So you're still moving here?" She nodded. "Yes, I have to. Even if you don't take me back, the position needs filling. But I want to be here with you." I prodded further. How can I trust there won't be another slip-up that goes too far? She looked confused by my word choice, but her father, who had been quietly absorbing everything, interjected, "Son, you won't know if you can trust her until you try. That's up to you. I won't tell you what to do, but I hope you can forgive her and take her back." Anna reached out, but I recoiled. "Is that the hand you used?" I asked bitterly. "When was the last time you touched him with it?" She broke into tears. Her father chided gently. That was a bit unfair, son, but I understand. Anna composed herself, stood, and said, "It was just once. I haven't seen him outside work again." She rushed to the kitchen, with me and her parents following. She turned on the cold tap full blast, opened the cabinet under the sink, grabbed the bleach bottle, and poured it over her right hand, front and back. After a few seconds, she rinsed it under the water, held it up to me, clean and glistening. There's not a molecule of him left on it. This hand will only touch you if you decide to take me back. I thought it was dramatic, but I was starting to believe her. I handed her a towel. "I'm not saying I forgive you yet, but you'd better come here next weekend so we can start looking for an apartment." She hoped to live with me is to make amends. And though I'd already decided to forgive her, I wasn't going to make it easy. She came that weekend, but we were too exhausted from spending hours in bed to hunt for places. The next weekend, I visited her apartment in Campinas. We went to a bar where some of her colleagues were. No one mentioned anything. There were no sly glances or giggles. It seemed everyone had kept their word. We didn't look for an apartment that time either. She moved into my house, slipped her engagement ring back on, and we wed in the spring instead of autumn. Things settled into a comfortable rhythm. We visited our parents, took vacations, and decided it was time for children before our own parents grew too old to enjoy them. She stopped the pill, and we made love fervently in every position we could imagine. After 6 months, nothing happened. We went to a clinic in Sorocaba for tests, and everything checked out fine. They advised us that stress from work and trying too hard could interfere, so we should let it happen naturally. We did, but life got busy. Anna with audits, me with delays on a client's plane repair due to supply issues. I worked all the legal hours I could, and when I wasn't, I was eating or sleeping. Our intimacy waned, which was normal for that time of year. Then, one morning while changing my razor blade, I spotted a pregnancy test kit cap in the trash. I fished it out and confronted Anna at breakfast. "Where's the rest of this?" She said, "I threw it away. It was negative. I didn't want to worry you." I pressed, "Why take a test? We've only been together twice this month. Why would you think you're pregnant?" She stammered, claimed she was late for work, and bolted. It hit me. If her period was due soon, why the test? Women don't forget that. When it started, I noticed she wasn't using as many pads as usual and left the box out, which was odd for her. The weekend getaway she suggested was incredible. She wore only stockings, high heels, and a satin nightgown the whole time. But I was still watchful. Back to routine. I kept an eye on things. At her office happy hours, I'd pick her up. But one Friday, I arrived early and found her colleagues without her, or Pedro, her boss. They said she was in the bathroom, but she returned from outside, smelling of vape smoke. I confronted her loudly. "If I catch you cheating, I'll divorce you and make sure he regrets it." She pulled me aside, but I didn't let it go. "Don't let your friends lie for you. I know you were out there with Pedro." The drive home was tense, and she spent the weekend apologizing. I checked her phone. Nothing obvious. Her company's policy forbade fraternization, especially between superiors and subordinates. When a training course in Rio was announced, I suspected more. She and Carla were going, or so she said. I recorded video as they left. Carla seemed nervous, and there were no extra bags in the car. I warned Anna, "If you betray me, I'll know and destroy you both." That night, I prepared for the worst, contacted the hotel, and even called Pedro's wife, pretending to be from his company. She confirmed he was in Rio too. I took leave, packed, and consulted a lawyer. I drove to Rio, confirmed Anna was at the hotel, and gathered evidence. It turned out Pedro was there, and my suspicions were confirmed. The trust I'd rebuilt shattered once more, leaving me to face the painful reality of betrayal again. I made an effort to get to know her. She was a decent woman, plain, but pleasant enough. I noticed her kids went to a private school, an expensive one, something they could never afford on Pedro's salary. And her clothes. I think she had her own money. It's not every day you see someone picking up their kids from school carrying a luxury handbag. I booked a room at the hotel and took a seat in the lobby. I was dressed completely out of character, even wearing a baseball cap, which I hate to do indoors. Anna knows that. I saw them arrive on the second night after their training day was over. There were about 20 people sitting at 4 large tables, but Pedro and Anna didn't sit at the same one. I watched them for the rest of the evening. They maintained a conspicuous distance from each other. Two people who work in the same office, you'd expect some interaction over the course of an evening. They had none. It was as if they were deliberately avoiding each other, but they wouldn't be stupid enough to do something in plain sight of everyone. So, if they were going to do anything, it would have to be discreetly. I didn't know if it would be his room or hers. The hotel only had 3 floors. It was around 9:15 when Pedro got up and left. Luckily, the staircase was right next to the elevator. I hurried over and saw him get out on the second floor. I didn't see the exact room he entered, but it was the one at the end of the hall. I ran back down the stairs to see when Anna would leave. 20 minutes passed. I went back up. Damn it. She was on the 3rd floor, right near the elevator. She was only in her room for a few minutes. Then she came out and headed for the elevator. But I had a gut feeling she'd use the stairs instead. I crept down as quietly as I could, not wanting to get trapped with her in an elevator car. I saw her get off on the 2nd floor and walk down the corridor. It looked like she was heading for the same room Pedro had entered. I peered down the hall just long enough to see the number. 214. Now came the hard part. I decided to wait an hour before knocking, hoping to find them innocently discussing work over a laptop. No. Let's make it 45 minutes, I thought. In the end, I waited 35 minutes before I approached the room. I set my phone to record video and slipped it into my shirt pocket with the lens peeking out. I double-checked it. Then I knocked. A minute later, all I heard was a muffled, "Shit," when he saw the photos. The pictures of him kissing and touching my wife. I didn't have any real proof, of course. It was a Photoshop job. A picture of Ana kissing her ex, Joao, with Pedro's face pasted over his. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't need to be. I also had the divorce petition, unsigned, for Ana. The door opened, and there was Pedro, a towel wrapped around his waist, staring at his lover's husband. He threw a punch at my left cheek. It was pathetic. Mine wasn't. The rage exploded out of me. I landed a straight right directly on his nose, hard. He went down. Blood was everywhere. I stepped over him and walked toward my wife. She was still in the bed, clutching the sheets to her chest. I handed her the envelope. "I've signed the divorce petition," I said. "You don't need to come home. I've changed the locks, and all of your clothes are at your parents' house. They aren't happy with you. They didn't know yet, but they would soon enough. And they still wouldn't be happy." I turned and walked out. I went to my room and packed my bag. I looked in the mirror. A beautiful bruise was already forming under my left eye. I couldn't have planned it better. I went down to the reception desk, passing by the bar on the way. I saw a man who had arrived with the training group, someone who looked like he was in management. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know Pedro?" "Yes, I do. Why?" "Well, he and Anna might be late tomorrow, if they show up at all." "It seems there was a little incident." He looked at my eye. "What? Between Anna and Pedro?" "No," I said. "Between Pedro and Anna's husband, which, by the way, is me." The man stared. "I don't believe it. They wouldn't be that stupid." I pulled out my phone and showed him the clip. Pedro, opening the door in a towel. The pathetic punch. My fist smashing into his nose, and Anna in his bed. I'd even managed to capture the room number in the video. He muttered something under his breath, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "Could you please send a copy of that to this address? And can I have your number? I'll need to call you in the morning. This is very serious." He gave me another card, and I wrote my number on the back. The bar behind him had gone completely silent. I was sure tomorrow's training session would be very interesting. I went to the front desk to check out. It felt strange, checking out at 10:30 at night. The receptionist asked if everything was all right. "No," I said, looking directly into the security camera above her head. "I just found my wife in bed with her boss, and he assaulted me." I drove home. I was furious, angry at myself, at her, at Pedro. I tried to pull over at a rest stop to get some sleep, but it wouldn't come, so I just kept driving. I hadn't actually changed the locks yet, but I had a locksmith on standby. I sent him a message to get it done as soon as possible. The sun was rising as I pulled into my driveway. I had already packed her clothes into black trash bags. I'd done it as neatly as possible because a part of me had hoped I'd be unpacking them, putting everything back before she ever found out. I loaded the bags into the trunk of my car. I tracked her phone. She was about halfway home, stuck in traffic. It would take her hours. I wondered where Pedro was, but not for long. I didn't care anymore. I thought about dropping her things at her parents' house, but that would be unfair to them. Her father was still recovering from a heart attack. I didn't want to cause another one. I drove to Anna's office, planning to leave the bags outside, but the cleaning crew was there and they let me in. So I left them on the floor, right in front of her desk. That would give the office something to talk about. When I got home, I put my key in the lock and turned it, leaving it there so Anna couldn't use hers. I managed to get a few hours of restless, exhausted sleep before I was woken by banging on the front door and shouting. It sounded like Anna. I went downstairs and looked out through the peephole. It was her. She was a mess. "Please, honey, I'm so sorry," she cried. "It was a mistake. It was just one time. He promised me a promotion. He's leaving soon, and he said he would recommend me for his position. I did it for us." It was such utter bullshit, I could practically smell it through the door. It was also a lie. "I don't care asterisk why asterisk you did it," I yelled back. "I only care asterisk what asterisk you did. You betrayed my trust. Please, just let me in. I can explain." "How do you explain the planning? Getting Carla to arrange for Pedro to attend the same training course? Hiding from everyone at the hotel? You planned all of this. So what else have you been planning? How long has this been going on? What else is Carla covering up for you?" "We had to plan it so we wouldn't get caught. It was only once, I swear. Just this one time." "I don't believe you. How long have you been sleeping with Pedro? You know what? It doesn't matter. Once is enough. I put the security chain on the door and opened it a crack. She thought I was going to let her in. Not a chance. But at least we could talk without screaming. So, I said calmly, I guess the whole office knows you cheated on me now. Obviously, Carla and Mariana know, so I assume everyone else does too. She didn't answer. Please, honey, I can explain everything. The salary is so much better as a manager. We'd have so much more for the baby when it comes. Okay, then explain this, I said. Why did you take a pregnancy test days before you were due? Given how busy we've been, we only slept together twice this month. You were just checking to see if Pedro had knocked you up, weren't you? She didn't look surprised. She didn't answer. She just stared at the floor. That told me everything. I don't need an explanation, I continued. I just need you out of my life. This is the second time you've cheated on me. I was an idiot the first time. It's not happening again. Sign the divorce papers. We're done. She looked defeated. I'll need some clothes, she said quietly. Can I please just get some clothes? I left them at your office. The cleaning crew was kind enough to let me in. I closed the door in her face. I felt terrible for her parents. While it was fresh in my mind, I went to my computer and drafted a letter detailing everything, from my first suspicions to Carla's role in the deception, to finding Pedro and Ana in the hotel room. I included the photos, the video, and the audio I had recorded at the door. I sent a copy to my divorce lawyer. I expected a fight from Anna. She contested it at first, but she folded as soon as her lawyer showed her the evidence. I think her parents had some influence on that decision too. She was fired. For her part in arranging the trip, Carla's marriage went into crisis when her husband found out why she was let go. Mariana received a formal written warning. The rest of the office got informal warnings, and there would be no bonuses for anyone that year. I imagine there were a lot of awkward questions in a few households when bonus season came and went. Mariana's boyfriend broke up with her. The fight I didn't expect came from Pedro. He was getting divorced, and he contested it, trying to convince his wife that Anna had set him up to get him fired so she could take his job. If he could save his marriage, he figured he could appeal his termination. It went to a hearing with a judge, which is rare these days. I was called as a witness. Pedro's wife's lawyer showed the video clip of Pedro and Ana in the room. Pedro's lawyer tried to have it dismissed, arguing it was recorded on private property. His wife, however, had seen it. He came after me then, arguing that if the video evidence was excluded from court, the company couldn't use it either, and he could sue them for wrongful termination. It was a clever move, but the judge disagreed. I wasn't a professional investigator. This was a private matter, and I was gathering evidence for a personal case. The hotel lobby wasn't private property, and there was nothing stopping the public from walking the halls. There was no expectation of privacy, especially since most of the video was recorded outside the room, particularly the part where Pedro assaulted me. Pedro called Ana to the stand. She told the court that Pedro had convinced her that if she slept with him, she'd get his job when he left in a few months. Then she broke down, admitting that she'd later found out the company had already planned to replace him with her all along. She never needed to sleep with him. The job was already hers. After the hearing, with our own divorce now finalized, Anna caught up to me as I was leaving the courthouse. Honey, can we please talk? There are some things I need to tell you. I looked at her. She was still beautiful to me. Her face was thinner, probably from the stress. She was immaculately dressed. I started to feel a flicker of pity for her. Fine, we can get a coffee. I walked toward the door, and she quickly caught up, linking her arm through mine. It felt good, like old times. She found us a table. I got her a coffee, a tea for myself, and a few cookies, and sat down across from her. She reached across the table and took my hand. I let her. She looked at me, her eyes welling up with tears. I am so, so sorry, she whispered. I should never have done it. The office had hinted that I would get Pedro's job, but nothing was confirmed. When things went quiet, I thought they'd changed their minds, so I was just making sure. I thought I was doing it for us, to secure our future, and to be honest, he wasn't even very good. She took a sip of her coffee. Please, can we try again? I'll do anything, absolutely anything. You could even have another woman on the side. I'd do anything to have you back. I'm so sorry. I love you so much. Please, let me fix this. Just give me one more chance. Tears were streaming down her face now. She was squeezing my hand so hard it hurt. So, let me get this straight, I said, my voice even. You sold yourself for a job that was already yours. You were sleeping with him at work, probably more than you were sleeping with me. You didn't use protection, so for all you knew, you could have been carrying his child. That shows how much respect you have for me and for our marriage. Just like with Joao, you only thought about yourself. You probably forgot I even existed. You had your colleagues help you plan your little getaway with your lover, who, by the way, was bad in bed. And God knows what else you've hidden from me. And let's not forget that your little stunt cost Carla her job. And from what I hear, her marriage is on the rocks. And Mariana's boyfriend left her. So you didn't just ruin our life. You dragged other people down with you. I took a sip of my tea. It was awful. Give you a second chance? I haven't forgotten what you did with Joao. So this would be a asterisk third asterisk chance. What do you think? I stood up, picked up the Belgian chocolate cookie, and walked out the door. I could hear her sobbing behind me. I didn't look back. All I felt for that woman was contempt. I ran into Anna's parents at the supermarket a few months later. Her father looked much better. They told me Anna had moved to another city. They didn't say what she was doing or where. I think they could tell I didn't care. As we said our goodbyes, Anna's mother turned to me. She had a miscarriage, she said softly. It was the stress. You know, she really does love you. Yeah, I thought. That's why she kissed Joao and slept with her boss. But I didn't say it. I didn't want to hurt these two people any more than they'd already been hurt. I found myself wondering if the baby had been mine or Pedro's. A rumor went around that Pedro's wife's brothers paid him a visit. Apparently, walking was difficult for him for a few months. I didn't care. I just kept on trying to live the best life I could.